Hey, Coach Jody here, and this is episode number 7 of On the Couch with me. And so today, I want to chat to you a little bit about the idea of form and what it actually is. So I have this really cool quote. It's out of my favorite book on coaching, my all-time favorite book on coaching. It's called The Inner Game of Golf or Tennis. A guy by the name of Timothy Gallwey wrote these books, and so I would just want to read this quote to you quickly. So it says, so that he talks about slumps, but so it's the same idea and the same thing as what we speak in cricket terms as form. So he says slumps don't exist. So this is something that he found himself saying to himself when he was busy playing golf. We create them and somebody asked him a question about it. He said, slumps don't exist, I found myself saying. We create them in our minds. Some people say they're in a slump after 2 poor shots in a row. Others don't feel they're in a slump until they've played poorly for 2 months. Therefore, you're in a slump when you think you are. And so for me, that's the idea of form. Is so many players say, I'm just not in form right now. And I always find like, so what is it that's got you here, right? So what is it that's busy happening for you that you go through life, your daily life or your cricket life saying, I'm not in a good space. And so inevitably, I think we determine this by runs scored or not scored, or wickets taken or not taken, or run rates given away or not given away. So when I'm scoring runs, taking wickets, bowling at not a lot of runs, getting hit off me, we'll say I'm in form, and the opposite's also true. And so I think that if we go by what Tim speaks about in the Inner Game books, where he talks about it's almost more like a decision on the inside of our minds. When I decide I'm in form, then I am. If I decide I'm not, then I'm not. And so for me, form is linked to our state of mind more so than actual performance. The day you decide that it is or it isn't, that's the day that it is. So the intention with this stuff is, right? So if we had to say your performance has valleys and peaks, right? As soon as you feel yourself, so cool thing about that quote, he says further in it, like, because we create it, we can uncreate it. And so the cool thing is that when we go into if we can catch ourselves sliding into the valley and we can recognize that, then we can get ourselves out of that quicker. And that's the intention. Keep the valleys as small as we can, small valleys, and make the peaks actually look like Table Mountain, maybe rather than just a nice little peak. And so the key for me with this, right, is the following analogy. It's because it's got a lot to do with our thoughts and how we think as human beings. And so that one of the best things I've ever heard about thoughts is that it's like wild horses, right? If you see wild horses running through a veld, what happens? They kick up a lot of dust. And it's similar to our thoughts. When we start hitting that slippery slope, when we start sliding into the valley, our thoughts tend to run like wild horses, and it kicks up a lot of dust. And when dust gets kicked up, we're not clear. Our thinking's not clear. Our thinking's cluttered or muddled, is at times a better word, I think. And so because we're in a mental space that's not clear and muddled, we slide into that valley, and it almost just gets worse and worse and worse, and we get deeper and deeper and deeper into that, and then we'll say, I'm not in form. At the same point in time, I think it's really important to recognize that our minds are developed to create thought, to make running horses all the time. The horses of different sizes run through our minds all day long. You think up to between 50 and 70,000 thoughts a day. So there's always going to be positive and negatives and all these then neutral ones, all of that stuff mixed together in your mind. And so when the thoughts are running, the most important we can do is, as I said, like when we start sliding down that slippery slope into the valley, that we can recognize, hang on, this is busy happening right now. And what we tend to do, right, is what people do is when we start slipping like this, we take all those thoughts and we start running with them. We start freaking trying to hold those horses and a wild horse, as soon as you try and tame him, what happens? They kick more. And so when we get into that slippery slope, it just goes from bad to worse because we are just we are just freaking running. We are trying to keep these horses in check. The cool thing about our thoughts, though, right? The really cool thing about our mind is that thoughts come and they go. So the wild horses, when they start running, if we can recognize them and say, wait, here's the wild horses, I can acknowledge them and I can accept them, right? They're here right now, in this very moment, they're running. I'm going to let them run. And you just let them run. You don't try and hold them tight. Then inevitably, what does a horse do? They stop. And so the cool thing is about our mind is if we almost like just give those thoughts a moment to be in us. So feel them a little bit, experience them a little bit. As soon as we allow ourselves to do that, the thought that the power they have and that wildness in them actually dissipates. Because it's not like, oh, I got to prove something here. Or here's a guy chasing me. It's like, okay, cool, I can actually just be here. That guy's just standing there. He's just watching us. We can relax. And as soon as that happens, a little while longer, the dust settles. And when the dust settles, we get clarity. And when the clarity comes back, we can play again. Then we can figure out, what do I actually want to do when I bat? Oh yeah, this is my game plan. I forgot about that. Oh yeah, I know when I play at my best, I can actually do, or I actually think these sort of thoughts. I don't think these negative things that get me into my valley. And so as soon as we can accept and acknowledge those negative running horse, wild horse thoughts, we can actually reverse the slip into the valley, and rather than try and control them and get deeper and deeper, we can jump out of it a lot quicker. And when we get out of them quicker, then our thoughts can become our clarity and our vision. And that's like having a horse, and it's a horse, one horse that you can control. It's a singular thing. You're sitting on that horse and you know where you're going, you know what you're going to do, you're steering the ship, your thoughts are clear. And when we do that, and we almost make a daily practice of getting ourselves back into those thoughts, we can take those peaks and spread them out and stretch them into Table Mountain like formations. Yeah, so I hope that helps, right? I hope that that understanding maybe a little bit about the valleys and the peaks, and that form actually doesn't really exist. It's simply a trick of the mind. I'm hoping that you get some value out of that, and you can get back on your horse of clarity as quick as and as effective as you can. Yeah, and so if you found some value in this video, as always, please feel free to share. Ask questions below if you're not clear on anything, or if you want more information. I'll happily engage with you there. And so yeah, have a good day. Cheers.